Compass Mining is your trusted partner in Bitcoin mining. Whether you're investing in one machine or thousands, our customizable solutions are tailored to meet your needs. We are your experts in Bitcoin mining, offering a platform where individuals and businesses can purchase hardware, host machines, and access a range of ancillary Bitcoin mining services. We also specialize in large-scale site development and data center operations. Discover more at compassmining.io and see how we can power your success today. Hey miners, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the official home of power mining analysis. Tuesday morning, once again, a flurry of press releases and news in the Bitcoin mining sector. That's going to be the topic of today's podcast. Before we get into it though, take a second, smash the like button, big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below what you thought of November production results, how you're feeling about the mining sector overall, and your outlook for the final few months of 2024. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's video. All right, guys, well, here we go. Tuesday morning, another event-filled morning or news-filled morning in the Bitcoin mining space. A flurry of press releases, production reports, and updates that we wanted to talk about, Anthony. Before we do, though, quick update on the price of Bitcoin. Not really doing a ton today, continuing to hover in that $95,000, $96,000 range. Miners split across the board as well. Hey, Anthony?
Yeah. Just we saw Bitcoin drop a little bit earlier today, but it's recovered that. It's back in that range again that we had yesterday. So great to be holding that mid-90s. I mean, Christ, it was 70,000 at the end of October. So people should be too down. I mean, can't expect Bitcoin to increase 5% every day. It's up, 30% since the end of October. So yeah, but it's doing okay. The miners are, they're a bit of a mixed bag today. CleanSpark was down big last night. Looks like the market weren't as happy with their results as CleanSpark were happy with them. So that's a stance on there. I did manage to catch some of the update there, but I'll be honest, we expect CleanSpark to bring out good results. They're one of the biggest miners. They've got an efficient fleet. But I was disappointed there was no presentation in terms of, they didn't put a presentation with the actual earnings release. There's no 10K been issued to the SEC yet, so there's a delay on that. So you can't really go in there and look at costs to any degree than what's in the income statement. Plus also there's lots of other information that you want to find out. So I even think, there's quite a few of our fellow YouTube colleagues out there that were covering it live last night. So we know that Sebastian had a live show on, and Rex also had a live show with I think I jumped on Rex's show actually just to see it was about, and he looked like he was falling asleep. Because he was waiting for some good news. And actually, of all the people to ask, it was Reggie from JP Morgan that woke him up with a reasonably good question. Yeah, the jury's out on that one, and I think that's really why the market sort of hit them straight after in after hours. I mean, the share price was probably trading about par for the day. It hadn't been up and down, but it was about where it started, and then as soon as after hours it dropped by about 8%, 9%. It has recovered a bit this morning, so literally a couple of hours ago it was down in the sort of like the low 1260s, 1270s, and it's shot back up above $14 now. But I mean, it's we'll come through and talk about the update shortly, but that was just my view last night. So having listened to a number of earnings updates, I was probably expecting a little bit more than what I heard last night. So but I'm a shareholder in CleanSpark. I want the company to do well like everybody else out there, but I do get frustrated sometimes with a number of the miners in the way they do sort of like not meet times that they stipulate they'll do. So we'll work through that, and we'll cover the updates for the month of November shortly.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I jumped on Rex's as well and was surprised to see there wasn't a presentation on the screen. As you said, I actually picked up some shares of CleanSpark yesterday in anticipation of earnings, and I was debating between Bitdeer and CleanSpark. I wish I would have gone Bitdeer as they're
Yeah.
obviously in the green today. Interesting comments there, Anthony, but like you say, both shareholders in CleanSpark, and hopefully we can get this share price moving back in the right direction. Any other standouts on the mid-morning market update? I know I mentioned Bitdeer was having quite a strong day. Kind of a mixed bag again across the board.
Yeah, actually, it's some of the safer ones. So, when we talk about when the Bitcoin price is a bit volatile, the one company that seems to do quite well is Core Scientific. And we talked many times about that, and we don't have to go into about their deal with CoreWeave, but their share price does tend to be a lot more stable. In fact, it was up, 3 or 4% in early trading today. So IREN's also up, but IREN came out with a really good update yesterday. I'm surprised the price action didn't happen yesterday, but I think the market's digesting that news yesterday, getting to 28 exahash and only 2 or 3 exahash away from their end of year target, which they actually increased from 30 to 31. They were that confident of finishing off the last remaining buildings at the Childress site and utilizing that 210 megawatts of power there that they they'll get that by the end of December. So yeah, if you look at the companies that are in the red, Argo Blockchain, obviously dilution. We've talked about CleanSpark, Bit Digital down there, so the market not giving them any favor, even though they've probably got at the moment. When we talk about HPC, they've got the best contract live at the moment, so they're earning more in HPC than they are in Bitcoin mining. But yeah, there's a few Hut and Marathon just below opening price. So there's just it's a mixed bag today. Nothing stands out too much. Bitdeer, as I say, that they're probably having a really good performance day. And if you think about what they're moving into in terms of the fact that they're actually producing their own mining machines, that will certainly help. Although it does raise the question, if they want to get machines that are going to be produced in Asia over to the United States, where some of their big sites are energizing. So they've got Ohio, big sites there. If they're going to be used for Bitcoin mining, that might be a challenge. But they do have sites in Norway, in Bhutan, and other, so spread across the world. So they have got backup plans there. Maybe the market thinks that's actually having that diversification is really good. So it's good to see their share price. It's probably them and Hut are probably the last couple of months are probably the best performing shares out there. So Bitdeer continuing to sort of show some good performance.
Yeah, it certainly is. Bitdeer is definitely one not a lot of people cover or talk about. So if you're not familiar with them, take a listen to our last interview with Jeff LaBerge. Definitely an interesting company to keep an eye on and talk about vertical integration. They've got the whole kitchen sink and everything else at Bitdeer there. Now, Cipher Mining, first one up in terms of the news here. So I think we have about 7 companies to go through today, Anthony. Cipher up 20% this month. It's about flat on the day, trading hands at $6.30 currently. They put out their November production results, so we can walk through this one. Any highlights here, Anthony? I know you mentioned difficulty, and there was one less day in the month of November compared to October. But most of these miners not showing significant improvements, most of them actually declining month over month.
Yeah, I mean, Cipher have had, I'd say it was, a good month, certainly a better month than October. And they have increased their hash rate. So the hash rate for the end of October was 10.7, operational hash rate in November 12. So a nice 12% increase in the actual hash rate. That's good there. They're able to mine 15% more Bitcoin as well. So Bitcoin up to 189 versus 164 in October. Deployed machines dropped by 1,000 machines from 77,000 down to 76,000. And what that will mean is the effect of they're replacing machines, older machines with new machines. So when you're replacing an old, say, S19, 100 joules terahash, 100 terahash with say an S21 Pro, which is over 200, you're getting effectively, you can remove two machines and replace one in there. So that's where that comes there from, better, more efficient machines. And if you think about their efficiency now, that's improved as well. So the efficiency rate for Cipher is also improved. They mine 189, but they sold 234 Bitcoin, and their hodl's at 1,383, which has a valuation as at the end of November of 134 million. So still a healthy hodl. Like Riot, Cipher also operate a energy strategy, and they were able to achieve $1.4 million in power credits for the month of November. And if you convert that into Bitcoin, that's about 13 Bitcoin. So achieved more power credits in November than they did in October. And so, yeah, it's in terms of like operating hash rate and production, it's not going to win any awards for what they delivered in November, but it's growing the hash rate. They've got a significant amount more hash rate coming on with their site next year coming online. So we'll obviously that will significantly improve, and it will improve at the right time as well as the Bitcoin bear cycle finishes and we're into sort of the bull cycle. You want your biggest sites being available, and they're going to have a big site next year available.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Cipher 2025 is definitely the year of activity for them. Interesting though, Anthony, you mentioned the increase month over month. So Cipher was actually up 15% Bitcoin wise month over month. The remaining production reports we're going to see, like I say, actually went down month over month. So I thought this was a relatively strong report from Cipher. With that being said, Anthony, we talked briefly about CleanSpark in the intro there, obviously coming out with earnings last night. They also put out their production report for the month of November, so we can talk through this one. Unlike Cipher, they were actually down 5% month over month, 622 Bitcoin coming in. So I was a little bit surprised by this, especially as we covered Marathon yesterday in excess of 900 Bitcoin.
Yeah, but if you look at the difficulty could account for anything up to about 10% for the month of November, plus a day less mining. So if you think about, say, maybe 8-9% of what they mined in October, accounting for that there, they've actually done okay. I mean, I can see why they've released it today. I mean, they obviously knew what they were doing. This report would have been ready to release yesterday, but they've issued the earnings update. Hasn't gone down as well as, and probably they were expecting the fallout from the earnings report. Now today is another day, and they've issued I would say it's a really good update today, the November update. So they mined 622. Yes, it's 5% down, but there's a day less for November, and also that difficulty makes a big difference. And people should realize that it is impactful. They've actually increased their operational hash rate so this is the amount that they've got plugged in now, to 33.7. So only 3.3 away from their target of 37 exahash by the end of the year. So I expect December's update to get them to 37. We've been saying that for most of the year. That was a nice increase by 8%. And then they also provide their average operational hash rate. So this is what the machines get put in day by day. So you don't count all the machines that were installed after day one. On day one, you count them as they go in. So you come up with an average hash rate. Their average hash rate is really good, 32.3. So not much lower than from their total energized hash rate. That was an increase of 9% on what they were averaging back in October. So that helps with the Bitcoin mine. The Bitcoin mine, if they hadn't have increased hash rate, that would have been probably closer to, maybe 580, 590. So they've managed to get that over 600, 622 there. Deployed fleet, now just like Cipher, it's gone down slightly by about 1,000 machines, but they are installing better machines. If you look at the fleet efficiency, that's improved by 9% from 20.89 to 19.05. So we talked about IREN yesterday. They're at 15 now. So CleanSpark are in second position in terms of efficiency fleet at 19.05. The hodl is going really well, and most of that hodl has been achieved this year. They've mined 6,500 coins this year, and they've put most of those in the treasury. So they've really grown that effectively this year in time for this bull cycle on Bitcoin there. So they've got 9,297 in the treasury, and that's valued at just over $900 million based on the price as at the 30th of November. So, if you look at what their hodl was at the end of October, when the Bitcoin price was $70,000, it was worth $610 million. So a 48% increase just in the hodl compared to the, and they haven't bought any Bitcoin like some of the miners. This is just purely what they've mined, but that increase in price has been absolutely amazing. 48% increase in there. That's a good update, and that will soften some of the news from last night.
Yeah, it certainly will. And it's great you bring up the fact of difficulty. I guess even myself didn't realize the full impact of that, Anthony, as we read these numbers. So important to understand that. And that's why we talk about those difficulty adjustments every 2 weeks on the channel, as it does have a material impact on earnings, revenue, and the Bitcoin mine of these companies. Now, the next one up, Anthony, will continue along with the production reports. DMG, so a smaller Canadian miner. This one's interesting. So they were down 2 Bitcoin month over month from 34 to 32, as you just talked about, some of the same factors there as CleanSpark. However, great to see insider buying here. So both Sheldon and Steve, which we've had on the channel, going in and purchasing shares off the open market. So this is a very bullish sign to see, Anthony, whenever you get insider buying, specifically as DMG goes through this fleet upgrade and continues to build out on their hash rate as well.
Yeah, absolutely. DMG, one of the sort of like what you say is that smaller miners, those with a market capitalization less than 100 million. But they've been, they're one of the OGs in the space. They've been going a long time. Sheldon's been in the space longer than any CEO. He's built this company up from the ground and done a lot of work, not just for DMG, but also assisting other miners get to where they've got to as well, in terms of providing sites, in terms of building infrastructure, in terms of designing sites, in terms of creating Mara's mining pool and the Terra pool, which is the green energy pool for DMG. And so, a good update today. So, we talked about DMG buying these 4,550 S21s. They've all been installed now, so their total operational hash rate reached an all-time high of 1.66 exahash. It increased from October, but if you look at the average hash rate, it's increased by 8% from 1.53 from the previous month. That enabled them to get close to last month's target. And bear in mind, when you look at the day less, like we've already mentioned there, they still achieved 32. So they made good use of those machines. Their hodl increased again, so they did spend a little bit last month. They've been investing and buying out in terms of orders for new machines, going into the AI industry as well. So they used a little bit of the hodl last month, but this month they've put that 32 back in the hodl there, and they've grown that to 423. And when you look at the total value of the hodl, based on the Bitcoin price at the end of November, that's a value of $41 million. Now, if you look at today's market capitalization for DMG, it's $51 million. Most of that market, you buy a company like DMG, you're buying that hash rate, and you're buying the company that has $41 million in the treasury just in Bitcoin. So you're effectively paying about $10 million. They have, if you look at their hash rate there, it's got a value per hash rate of about $13 for every $13 million for every exahash. If you compare that to, say, TeraWulf, which is $336 million per exahash, or if you compare it to, say, HUT, which is $377 million, even the likes of Core Scientific, 253, $13 is really, really, really cheap. So DMG, I'm not surprised, and you're going to bring this up now, I'm not surprised those two directors have gone in there and bought a chunk of chunk of their own stock there. They believe in it. I hold shares in DMG as well, and I just think, for a small miner, they punch above their weight.
Compass Mining makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Start mining in as little as 48 hours with our turnkey hardware, online and mining directly to your Bitcoin wallet within 2 business days. Find out more at compassmining.io and get started now. Yeah, they certainly do. And that's exactly what I was going to bring up, Anthony. When you look at the market cap compared to the HODL here, definitely a head scratcher. And it appears both Sheldon and Steve are thinking the same. So Sheldon Bennett, the CEO, just picked up 99,461 shares, and Stephen Eliscu, the COO, again, both of which we've had on the channel, grabbed 107,000 shares off the open market. He went on to say, as we are executing on our goals, I affirm my belief that DMG has the potential to create significant value. A great play here, really pushing the bounds, as you say, Anthony, in terms of innovation. They've got their hands in everything. They have this SOC 2 compliance now and working with Indigenous bands here in Canada to actually help set up data centers for the Indigenous community. So great operation, and definitely one to take a look at if you're not familiar or currently holding DMG. Now, with that being said, we have one more production update, shifting gears over to Riot. So going from one of the smaller Canadian miners to one of the largest American miners. They came out with their production report as well for the month of November, down 2% month over month, coming in at 495 Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, a solid month for Riot. We've been fairly critical of Riot during the year. In the early part of this year, the first 6 months, with regards to their hash rate, their production numbers were just nowhere near where they should have been. They were literally getting overtaken by companies with half the hash rate. However, the last 3 or 4 months now, we've seen some massive improvements, pretty much probably because we went down to Corsicana, highlighted a few issues that they've sorted out, and they're now showing true value in that information we passed on to the team there and starting to produce where they should be. So 495 compared to 505 last month. The installed hash rates increased to over 30 exahash. Now it's now at 30.8, so that's a 5% increase in hash rate during the month. Operational hash rate, yeah, still not where it needs to be. We talked about CleanSpark. They've been installing hash rate. Marathon have been installing hash rate. We talked about them yesterday. IREN have been installing hash rate, and they're getting very close to install hash rate when they do their updates. But right here, they're at 25.8, so there's still the best part of 20% to go. But that 25.8 for November is 14% higher than it was in October at 22.7. So that's another great stride. That's another 3 exahash of average operational hash rate achieved in the month when they've only actually put in less than 1.5 exahash in terms of installing new machines over those 3 facilities they've got. In terms of fleet efficiency, that's dropped to 22.3, and that will continue to drop as they grow out the Corsicana site and replace mining machines in Kentucky and at the Rockdale facility. They've got the second largest HODL behind Marathon Digital. They didn't sell any Bitcoin this month. They only sold 4 the previous month. And effectively, most of this year, they have been HODLing. And Riot are one of the few mining companies all the way through. If you go back over the last 3 years, I don't think they've ever sold more than production. So they've always managed to at least, not reduce their monthly HODL position. Either slightly increase it, or what they've been doing this year is actually majorly increasing it by selling very, very few, maybe 2 or 3 Bitcoin a month on average for most of the months this year. So got that up to 11,425. That's got a value of 1.1 billion. That's a 44% increase from what we had in October. So great position to be on the balance sheet there. Now, in November, they also achieved 1.4 million in power credits. So they're still operating that strategy at their sites in Texas and getting the benefits for that. It was 1 million in October. So that was an improvement of 40% on the previous month there. And their all-in power cost, which they highlight on their update, went down from 0.039 or 3.9 cents a kilowatt hour to 3.8 cents a kilowatt hour. And we've talked about that 3.5 to 4 cents a kilowatt hour in Texas is a great price point for these companies to aim at. And when you consider at the Corsicana site, which is market rate, they were able to achieve 3.8 there, which is the same amount they achieved at Rockdale with their PPA agreement. So that's great for Riot, and hope that that continues. That 1.4 million in terms of power credits was equivalent to 14.4 Bitcoin. So again, some companies like to add that to their Bitcoin mined. I show it separately just to show that it's not physically Bitcoin, but you could argue, if companies are selling Bitcoin, that's what the equivalency would be, and that's based on a Bitcoin price of about 96,000. So 14.4 added to the 495, that's close to 510 Bitcoin. That's a better position than they were last month. But good update, and encouraging to see that average operational hash rate improving quicker than the total hash rate, which means they're getting closer with the production.
Yeah, it certainly does. And it's a great point you bring up there about the Bitcoin equivalency for that power strategy. The one nugget that we got out of Jason in our last interview that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, at Corsicana, in order to participate in the 4CP, you need to be in operation a full year. So they're actually going to get some benefit there next year. It sounded like, from what Jason said, in the neighborhood of about 0.9 cents. So that should be a very strong tailwind for Riot moving into 2025. And I got to say, I love the photos that they send out as well. We got 2 great images of the update at the Corsicana facility and of the immersion tanks with the Riot logo on the front there. And the cool thing about these tanks is the logo itself will actually change from blue to red if there's an issue with one of the mining rigs in the tank. So I thought that was really cool as well. Now, we're going to be shifting over from production updates into regular news today. No shortage of news either. The first one is Core Scientific. We talked about them yesterday, coming out with this convertible senior note. Now they've announced the pricing and some of the details there, upsizing now to $550 million, Anthony.
Yeah, absolutely. They've now come out and announced it's 550 million. It's at 0% interest. Now, there is a premium on the actual share price when they do get transferred. And actually, it's about 40, I think it's 42% a premium. But if you think about, they're effectively getting free money now to go and invest in. What could happen if the share price really rallies? They'll be able to sell shares and actually convert those notes back into at the lower price. So, or like Mara did, actually repurchase those convertible bonds at the price agreed there. So it just gives them a great opportunity. I mean, you're talking about a company that wasn't even valued at 500 million when they came out of Chapter 11 back in January this year. And look where they are now. They're well over 4.5 billion, probably going up towards 5 billion in terms of market capitalization. Got a major contract starting to bring in revenues from early 2025. And this is just another smart way of business for Core Scientific. So yeah, a good update, anticipated. And we've just seen a lot of these companies now go to the debt market through these convertibles. It's a sensible way of doing business, and we'll probably see a lot more miners follow suit. We do get some of these miners behave a bit like sheep, and once one goes that way, we see another one. I mean, even saw a tweet today to say that Marathon came out and said people are now copying their strategy, and then someone went in and said, "Well, you think you're copying Michael Saylor's strategy? He started this years ago, and he's been perfecting this strategy, and you just jumped on the bandwagon. So don't take any credit for him." So
that's exactly right.
But at the end of the day, these miners are in business, and who cares if it works? We've seen some of the miners make great use of the ATMs. IREN and CleanSpark specifically have made fantastic use of those over the past 18 months, coming from where they were. Even if you go back to the start of this year, CleanSpark were at 10 exahash. They're at 33 exahash now. IREN were at 6 exahash at the start of the year. They're at 28. So you're looking at companies that are going to have 250 to 400 increase in hash rate this year, and that's been helped by by navigating the ATM really successfully. Now we're seeing miners moving to these convertible notes, and hopefully we'll see a similar success. I mean, the great thing is if you've got a convertible note at 0%, you're not incurring any interest charges during your these seasons now where we're going into the bull cycle. So that's going to be really healthy margins. And if the share price reacts because the Bitcoin price increases, you've got an exit plan for those convertible notes at the date. I think it's 2028. They can start converting them back. Or buying them back or whatever. So there's plenty of options for Core Scientific. I think it's a good move. Marathon did it this week, and also we've seen the likes of Bitdeer also do this in the market, and there'll be other miners that come up with a similar approach as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, there certainly will. I was going to say there's no harm in copying a strategy unless there's a patent there, and this one definitely seems to work. Speaking of copying strategies and Marathon, we also got a press release out today saying they've now purchased a wind farm. So they've gone in, actually going to be working behind the meter. So talk about copying strategies, Anthony. This one reminded me very much of Soluna. Almost exactly what they're doing is instead of partnering with these renewables, Marathon has gone in and bought one, but getting access to renewable energy behind the meter where they can control the power themselves. This site's going to have a total of 240 megawatts of interconnect capacity. However, right now it's operating at 114 megawatts. So this is a big addition to their portfolio. And they go on to say this one's going to serve as the blueprint for really this new strategy of partnering data centers, Bitcoin mining, and renewable energy sources. So an interesting play by Marathon. And again, a strategy shift that we've seen time and time again from Fred this year. Hey, Anthony?
Yeah, no, I think he realizes the asset light model didn't quite work out, and they've been reflecting that by purchasing a lot more sites this year. So they've now got more sites owned than they are sort of like hosting at the moment. So that's the percentages there. I think they want that to be higher as well. Purchasing this facility here, gives them, a great opportunity to utilize that 114 megawatts of wind capacity at effectively zero marginal energy cost. So, this will be great for their. I mean, the one area that people have been concerned about over these last few years is the production cost that Marathon are incurring compared to peer miners. It's been nowhere near where it should be. When miners were operating at 4 cents a kilowatt hour, I think Marathon were at 6.7. So they have addressed a lot of these issues. They are the biggest miner out there. The growth in hash rate this year has been impressive as well. They're at 46 at the moment. They'll get to 50 by the end of the month. That's just a matter of replacing some of the older machines with newer models to get that increased hash rate, increased efficiency. And so, that was a target that we had question marks over at the middle of the year, but they've managed to do that, and they've had a great month this month. I mean, we talk about production updates. They had a great one in December last year, but this year, up until now, has been again disappointing for them, like it has been for some other miners. But November's update was impressive. This is another good news update. They've had a couple of convertible notes in the last month as well, so. You're talking nearly $2 billion in convertible notes, a wind farm, growth in hash rate, things looking brighter for Marathon.
They certainly are. Yeah, that's one I'm re-looking at in my portfolio as well. Now, you talk about fleet upgrades. The final piece of news we have is from Hive. This one put a smile on my face. I was very happy to hear this update. We've talked to Hive extensively on the channel, both Aiden and Frank, talking about wanting to preserve that 2% of global hash rate within their organization. So they've come out today with what they're calling a transformative acquisition of 8.6 exahash worth of brand new Bitmain S21 plus hydro miners. So these are top line machines, Anthony. You've already talked about the impacts of efficiency as they start to upgrade these fleets. Hive definitely following suit and making a major step in the right direction.
Yeah, no, this is a really good update. They've been doing things in a more managed way, and we've seen some of these other miners that we've talked about month after month, raising the bar with massive orders of machines, selling hundreds of millions of dollars a share to pay for those machines. But Hive have been doing things in a more organic way. effectively growing organically. They've been changing their fleet this year as well. So they've been making some strategic purchases of mining machines all through the year and just replacing some of the older machines, some of the older S19 machines with the more more up to date, more efficient mining machines. Because we know one thing about Hive over the last 4 years, they've effectively been probably the best miner in terms of operations, along with Bitfarms. You can't really split them out the last couple of years. Hive in 2020 and 2021 and 2022 were sort of like top mining company. Bitfarms achieved that last year, and they're neck and neck this year. Bitfarms have already released their update. Hive will release their update probably later this week. So money might be on Hive getting to the top spot with just 1 month to go, December's month, to find out who finishes top for the year. All in a bit of fun, really. It's at the end of the day, the balance sheet and the income statement will determine who does well and the share price. But this was a really good update. This takes their target now. They had a target of about 12.5 to 13 exahash with the increased facility in Paraguay coming online middle of next year. This now takes that to 15 exahash, which is a great total to have. Bear in mind they're operating at about 5.6 was the last monthly update there. So they're going to be at 6.4 early in 2025. This will get them, another 9 exahash by the middle of 2025. And these new miners they've purchased now, we know the efficiency. It's at 15 joules a terahash, and they'll be operating in Paraguay. Frank's doing the numbers there. If you look at the expansion to 15 exahash at today's Bitcoin prices, that could generate about 300 million in revenue a year, and they believe they can get a mining margin of over 200 million, using approximately 9 Bitcoin a day. So if you look at where Bitfarms did this month there with their hash rate of just under 12 or under 11 exahash in terms of average operational hash rate, they're about between 6 and 7. So if you've got 15 exahash of energized hash rate, you're going to be at 9 Bitcoin daily today. So they're using sensible numbers. They're not using forecasting numbers that might be there next year. They're using the current Bitcoin price. The order includes additional 13,408 units with a call option. And Aiden's emphasized that the way they purchase machines is on delivering really good return on investments, and they expect to be profitable after around 10 months. So we talked about GPUs taking 2 years to become profitable. These mining machines here, 10 months, Aiden's suggesting, and Aiden's usually on the ball. If there's one CEO that knows the numbers, it's generally Aiden. Aiden's pretty sharp on the numbers. Don't always get that with a CEO. Normally rely on the chief finance officer or the operations director to sort of like have those numbers to hand. But Aiden is all about the numbers. He knows his numbers, and if he's saying ROI of around 10 months, who's going to argue with it?
Fair enough. Yeah, no, a great announcement. Like you say, really happy to see one that size out of Hive. We've been looking to get that hash rate up, and now coming out looking at 15 exahash by next year, definitely moving in the right direction. So with that being said, Anthony, nearly all the companies we talk about on the channel have had some piece of news or production report in the last couple days. We'll be sure to finish up any additional production reports as they come out. I wanted to kick it back to you for any closing thoughts. Looks like Bitcoin and the miners still continuing to hover in that same range. Hopefully we start to get some green shoots, as you like to say, on the board here.
Yeah, so the mixed bag's still there. So in terms of green at the moment, we're seeing IREN CORZ green, but Bitfarms, still down. CleanSpark still down by over 4% at the moment. Marathon down. Hive's even down, even after that good update there, and Cipher's just below closing price from yesterday. So yeah, a bit of a mixed bag today. As I say, don't try and watch the share prices every 2 minutes. Zoom out a little bit. If you've picked the stocks based on the fundamentals, you won't be far wrong. We've given you enough starting points with regards to Bitcoin price to give you an understanding of that's going to land in the next sort of 6 months. The Bitcoin miners will only benefit if the price gets anywhere near to those calculations. So, don't try to question things after every day that you have a red day. There's more green days to come.
There certainly is. Treat it like a garden, they say, Anthony. You plant the seeds, you let them grow. You don't dig them up every day to check on them. So you buy your stocks, you lock them away, and you don't look at them every day unless you want a lot of stress. So you guys had a big update today in the market. Let us know in the comment section below, what did you think of the production results? What do you think about the Marathon wind farm acquisition? And when do you think we're going to get through this Bitcoin $100,000 US wall? Let us know in the comment section. Feel free to subscribe, hit the like button. We'll see you back here tomorrow.